Let's start with what is most likely the earliest version and go from there. The first version is most likely what Heard shared with her sister Whitney. Whitney's former employer Jennifer Howell gave a written testimony in the UK trial. In the testimony, Howell wrote, "While Amber and Johnny were in Australia, Whitney was in the office sitting in the black and white chairs near the kitchen and loudly proclaimed, 'Oh my God, she has done it now, she has cut his fucking finger.'" The second version would be what she told her friend and acting coach Christina Sexton. In the UK trial, Sexton was asked about her deposition. Depp's lawyer Law said, "When Mr. Depp and Miss Heard went to Australia, did she tell you that she threw a bottle of vodka at him and that's what severed his finger?" Sexton answered, "No, she told me that he had broken the bottle and cut himself with the bottle that he had broken." Then Sexton clarified, "She did not indicate that he cut off, like went purposely to cut it. What it seemed to me is that he had broken the bottle against something and that he was doing things with the bottle like shaking it." Laws then asked, "What you were saying during that deposition was that Miss Heard had told you that Mr. Depp had cut his finger on a bottle, yes?" To which Sexton answered, "Yes." Now we get to what Heard herself has testified. In her UK witness testimony, Heard wrote, "There was an old-fashioned mint green and cream house phone mounted on the wall next to the fridge. At some point he picked it up, smashing it against the wall next to me, right next to my face. He was smashing it so hard and so many times that it was smashed to pieces." At this point there was no mention of an injury. In a later paragraph, Heard wrote, "His hand was covered in red, and there was black and blue paint everywhere. He had been writing on the walls and furniture. There was so much red on him. At first I thought it was my blood, and I thought, had I bled that much? My feet and arms were very bloody. He held up his finger and said, 'Look what you made me do.' It was covered in blood and paint, but I could see the bone. I was really worried about how much blood he could have lost from his finger. He had been alone and bleeding for so long while I was asleep, and I was worried about losing him." Heard adds, "I had only seen that his finger had been cut off that morning when he held it up to my face. I didn't actually see the finger being cut off, but I was worried that it had happened the night before. I figured it might have happened when he was smashing the phone on the wall by the fridge." Now, in Benjamin King's witness testimony, he was shown an amendment to Heard's testimony. This is not King's testimony. This was an amendment made by Heard's team, and it was shown to King because they wanted to ask him questions based on the information in the amendment. This is Heard's amendment to her own testimony. It says, "Defendant's amended defense." Heard added, "The claimant ignored her, continued to hit her with the back of one closed hand, and slammed a hard plastic telephone against the wall with his other hand until it smashed. While he was smashing the telephone, the claimant severely injured his finger, cutting off the tip." So, according to Heard's amended testimony, Depp was hitting her with one hand and using the other hand to hit the wall with the phone. First, Heard testified that she didn't know how Depp had lost his finger. Then she submitted an amended defense where she says he injured his finger while hitting the phone. Then later, when Heard took the stand in the UK trial on day 11, she went back to, "I do not know. I did not see his finger go off." But the very next day, when Depp's lawyer Law said, "It is inconceivable, is it not, that this injury was caused by Mr. Depp smashing a phone on a wall? You have just lied about it, have you not?" To which Heard answered, "Absolutely not, Miss Laws. I was there. I watched it." Heard then clarifies, "Sorry, maybe I should be more clear. What I meant is, I would be shocked if Johnny remembers any of this himself, but I do remember. I was there." So within a day, she went from not knowing to knowing exactly how Depp had injured and severed his finger. Now the US trial versions. When Heard describes Depp breaking the phone, she again makes no mention of an injury to his hand.
And he starts punching the wall next to my head, holding me by the neck. I get free from him. I kind of step back from him, and it's like his energy shifted to the phone. There was a wall-mounted phone on the wall next to where my head was, and he went from punching the wall to like realizing there was a phone there, and he picked up the phone and he's screaming. He's like at the top of his lungs, screaming, "I fucking hate you! I fucking hate you! You ruined my fucking life!" And screaming at the top of his lungs, he picks up the phone and starts bashing the phone against the wall where I was just being held. And I remember kind of having some distance on what was happening and watching him do this. And it was like his energy had shifted, and I was that phone all of a sudden. And he was just over and over again smashing this phone into the wall, over and over again, screaming at me. And I was watching the phone every single time he pulled his hand back. It was just breaking into pieces. I remember thinking this phone is disappearing. He was smashing it to smithereens, just going into the wall. And at some point, he's on top of me, no phone, but screaming the same thing.
In this version, Depp is not hitting her while he is hitting the wall with the phone. According to Heard, he initially held her by the neck against the wall, but let go when he grabbed the phone.
He was standing at the office desk. He had his hand wrapped in this like rags, or bandana rags, and I think he took them down or somehow showed me, and he said, "Look what you made me do. I did this for you," something to that effect. And I kind of put together, it was covered in paint, and I put together that's like he was using his finger. I quickly became aware that that's what he was using as a paintbrush, even though there was lots of paintbrushes around. And we didn't have any sort of like coherent conversation, as you can imagine. I figured out he was missing a finger. He kind of held it up, and I said, "What did you do? When? Like, what did you do? When?" And I realized in my head that there had been many hours since this probably happened, assuming that was happened with the phone. In any case, I knew it had been way too long, that he had this blood, that he was bleeding, and I said, "I'm going to call 911 if you don't call Jerry now." I still don't recall which of us called Jerry Judge, his security.
The bandana is a new detail. When it came to the cross-examination, Heard was presented with her 10th of April 2019 declaration for the U.S. court, where she said the following.
Dated April 10th, 2019.
Correct.
Now let's look at paragraph 16, which is on page 5. Specifically line 10. Quote, you write, testify under oath, while he was smashing the phone, Johnny severely injured his finger, cutting off the top of it, end quote. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
Then, in their closing arguments, Heard's lawyer stated that.
Now, she doesn't know how he lost his finger. She said that she saw him smash a phone to pieces.
So these are all the changes to Heard's account as to how Depp lost his finger. First, she told Whitney that she cut the finger off. Second, to Sexton, Heard told that Depp himself cut it off with a broken bottle. Third, in her witness testimony, Heard only noticed the injury in the morning. Fourth, then Heard amended her defense to add that Depp had been hitting her while he was hitting the phone against the wall, and that this is when he severed his finger. Fifth, in her testimony on the UK stand on day 11, Heard said she never saw Depp injure his finger while destroying the phone. Sixth, then the very next day, on the same stand, Heard said she saw Depp injure his finger when he smashed the phone. Seventh, in her US testimony, Heard went back to Depp not hitting her while he was hitting the phone against the wall and not knowing when Depp injured his finger, but that most likely happened while he was breaking the phone. 8. Heard in her 2019 declaration had said Depp did injure his finger while breaking the phone, to which she agreed to again on the stand. 9th, then in her closing arguments she went back to not knowing.